We're going to do some more examples where we're using the chain rule. Okay, so we've seen one example like this before. We've got 400 times 169 minus x squared raised to the 3/2. And this is something plugged into a polynomial. And we can think of starting with the power rule. Remember, work your way outside in. So we're going to take 3/2 times 400, okay, which is going to give us 600. And then we're going to leave the 169 minus x squared, and we're going to subtract 1 from 3/2, which gives us 1/2. And now we need to multiply by the derivative of the inside stuff. So the derivative of 169 is 0, so that kind of goes away. And then the derivative of negative x squared is negative 2x. Okay, and the only thing we can kind of do if we want to clean this up is we can multiply the 600 times the negative 2x, and that would be negative 1200x times 169 minus x squared to the 1/2, which would really be the square root. So you could write it as negative 1200x times the square root of 169 minus x squared. Okay, next we have cosine squared of the square root of x. Now, cosine squared of the square root of x, cosine squared is really cosine of the square root of x squared. Now, here we really have kind of a double chain rule. We have the square root of x plugged into cosine, which is plugged into x squared. So again, start from the outside and work your way in, okay? So to start from the outside, we're going to bring the squared down and change that power to a 1, okay? So our h prime of x is going to be 2 cosine of the square root of x, this to the first power. Okay, now we need to look at kind of our next level, the cosine of the square root of x. Okay, the outside function there is cosine, so we need to take the derivative of cosine, which is negative sine, and plug in square root of x. Okay, now inside there is the square root of x, so we still have to take the derivative of that. Remember, the square root of x is the same thing as x to the 1/2, so the derivative we want to multiply by is 1/2 x to the negative 1/2. Okay, so looking at this whole thing, how can we simplify it? Well, we can multiply all the constants that are in front. So we have a 2, a negative 1, and a 1/2. So if we multiply 2 times negative 1 times 1/2, we get negative 1. So we have h prime of x is equal to negative cosine of the square root of x, sine of the square root of x, over x to the negative 1/2 is over square root of x. And that would be our final answer. Okay, look at what we have here. We have h of x equals 2x squared plus 3 to the 4th power times x cubed minus 4 squared. Okay, so look at the overall thing. Overall, we're multiplying two things together. We're multiplying this times this. So we're going to have to start with the product rule. Now, in the product rule, when we take the derivatives of the individual pieces, then we'll have to use the quotient rule, okay? So on this piece, when we take the derivative, we'll have to use, sorry, not the quotient rule, the chain rule. We'll have to use the chain rule. And on this part in the inside, we'll also have to use the chain rule. But we want to start with the bigger thing, the product rule. So remember the product rule, we're going to just bring the first one down. So we're going to bring down 2x squared plus 3 to the 4th. And we're going to multiply by the derivative of the second one, which we'll use the chain rule. So we'll bring the 2 down, leave x cubed minus 4 to the first power. And we need to take the derivative of the inside stuff, which will be 3x squared. Plus, now we're going to take the derivative of this first piece using the chain rule. So we bring the 4 down, make this 2x squared plus 3 cubed. We multiply by the derivative of that inside stuff, which would be 4x, okay? And now we have to bring down that second term. So we're going to multiply this by x cubed minus 4 squared. So to clean this up a little bit, this first term, we can pull the 2 that's just a constant all the way on, friends, right? This is 2 times 2x squared plus 3 to the 4th times x cubed minus 4. Oh, we could actually multiply that 2 times this 3 that's in front of the x squared. So this can become 6x squared. So that 3x got multiplied by that 2. Plus, now here the constants that we have a 4 and we have this 4x. So we could write this as 16x, so the 4 times the 4x, and then 2x squared plus 3 cubed times x cubed minus 4 squared. Okay, pretty messy. And the unfortunate thing is it's always hard to know once you've reached that point if you've made a mistake. There's not kind of an easy way to check it, but you really want to work from the outside in and apply all of the rules kind of in that order, and just be very careful about how you apply them.